Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the soulmate, and I'm going to be talking about astrological indicators to look for to perhaps find your potential soulmate. Now, in synastry, if one has one's north node making a conjunction to one's sun, moon, or ascendant, I think that's an excellent aspect in synastry for this because the north node is of course about one's future, and the sun, moon, and ascendant of course are very prominent in one's chart, and that person, the sun ascendant moon person, can very well figure prominently in that person's future. Of course, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be on a romantic or relationship, a significant other level, but it has a better chance, much better chance than the average synastry aspect of being that. Now, it's interesting. I had somebody I corresponded with, or at one time she had said to me that I'm part of that, maybe I'm part of her future or something, because the fact that she was so many time zones ahead of me. I thought it was interesting when I looked at the synastry in her chart in mine. Her ascendant, Pisces ascendant, makes a long conjunction to my north node in Pisces. And it's interesting because Pisces people can be rather intuitive, and I don't think she actually knew that aspect we had, but it was like she was using that Pisces intuition, and she really accidentally made an astrological connection that she said something that corresponded with an astrological aspect in synastry we had, and I think where we have, and I thought that was very interesting for her to say that. And the thing too is another thing to look at. Now, if somebody has, if there's a south node conjunct the sun, moon, or ascendant in synastry, that could be good as well. But the thing about the south node, I like the north node better than the south node, because the south node is really about what we're trying to get away from, or at least where we're trying to get away from to some degree, and maybe incorporate a little bit into our north node energy. And what it is when you have this aspect, like say if it's the sun, someone's sun conjunct one south node, well, this person might be, the sun person might be illuminating or shining the light on that person's south node built-in attributes and abilities. I mean, like in my case, I have my south node in Virgo in the 5th house, so my natural attributes and built-in abilities, so to speak, can be tied into intellectual, analytical, fun, and amusement. And there's nothing wrong with somebody energy shining on that. But the thing about it is, it's better to have it with the north node, because the north node is more geared toward the future. And there are, I mean, those out there that see the south node with those conjunctions like that could indicate some past life tie, and a lot of times that's maybe that's what bonds some of these people together, though, in those cases. The thing too is, now, some other things to look at as far as finding your soulmate. I think very good aspects in synastry between like the Venus and Moon in one's charts. Now, I think what could be very good is somebody having their Venus making a conjunction to one's sun, moon, or ascendant. The Venus person, like say if it's a Venus conjunct sun aspect in synastry, well, the Venus person might like the sun person for who they are inside. Let's say if it's Venus in Cancer conjunct the sun in Cancer, that person might see the sympathetic, nurturing, compassionate, and caring, and even maybe motherly, the nurturing qualities and sensitive qualities of that sun in Cancer person. And the thing, and I mean, let's say you have the moon, you have a moon conjunct Venus aspect in synastry. Well, you can have, I mean, and let's say it's in Gemini. Well, what you have is you have the Venus being the enjoyment in what the people love, could be very well synchronized with that person, the moon person's emotional needs. So let's say if it's in Gemini, these could be manifold interests. Now, the Venus and Gemini person might love and enjoy intellectual stimulation, variety, good conversation, maybe things connected with dexterity. It could even be just working on auto mechanics, and it could very well match the moon in Gemini's emotional needs. So you can have that very good aspect right there. And if you have a Venus conjunct a person's ascendant, you could have a very strong physical attraction to that person. You love that and the Venus person could love that the ascendant person very well, as far as what they're projecting outwardly, those characteristics that are being strongly projected on the surface will love those qualities very much in that person. Now, some other things to look for, of course, going back to Venus, of course, having a lot of Venus aspects that are good in synastry, say your Venus making a lot of positive aspects to that person's planets in the other person's chart and astrological energy, which of course could include the nodes, the ascendant in midheaven. Now, another thing too is to look for. Now, I think if you Juno is important, I believe, as well. Juno represents that marriage partner that you might actually require or need. And it's not, those are if you have Juno in Gemini and it makes a conjunction to somebody's sun, moon, or ascendant. That could be a very, and that's in Gemini. Well, that might very well be that person that you may really you require in your mind to, as far as marrying. Now, and it could be somebody, of course, it could be a sun, moon. Gemini, if you have that conjunction, say with Juno to someone else's sun, moon, or ascendant, Gemini could be a person that you marry. That's very cerebral, intellectual, very articulate, can speak, talk about many subjects. Somebody very versatile and diversified, and that could be that kind of person that you may wind up, marrying. The seventh house cusp, of course, as well is obviously very significant to look at. Somebody's sun, moon, or ascendant hitting your seventh house cusp. That could be somebody that you may wind up marrying. That could be that soulmate. It doesn't always have to make a conjunction to your seventh house cusp, the other person's sun, moon, or ascendant, but you can have, but at least in that same sign. So if you have Aries on the cusp of your seventh house, well, it may be more intensified and as far as the connection, if that person's sun, moon, or ascendant hits your seventh house cusp. But even if the person has, say, the sun, moon, or ascendant in Aries, that could be important as well. And it's also important to see, if you have the other person's planets, a number of them fall in your fifth and or seventh house. This could be important as well. This could be a potential soulmate. Somebody's Venus falls in your fifth house or your seventh house of marriage. That could be something as well. And also don't forget about the ninth house in astrology. Now, the ninth house, a lot of astrologers will concur. Some may not agree, but the ninth house I see as the second marriage. Now, if say you're somebody that's already had been married, you've been divorced or separated, and now you have this ninth house, then if somebody's sun, moon, or ascendant hits that ninth house cusp, this could be somebody that you wind up marrying later on. Now, let's say even somebody's north node falling in your ninth house, especially if it makes a conjunction to the ninth house, this could be somebody that you may feel you have that future marriage with, perhaps. That is, these are all some things to look at as far as finding that potential or prospective soulmate. And I think, and remember too, people, that as I always say in my videos, don't isolate any astrological influence. If you have one of these aspects in synastry, it doesn't, I mean, that's not going to give any guarantee or assurance of anything. It just, what it means is it can help along the way very strongly in your prospects of maybe having that soulmate-like connection with that person, but you really need to have multiple aspects. I mean, and also you have to look at everything in the synastry chart, because even if, let's say, you have, I mean, predominantly good aspects, and you have maybe two, or at least of what I've talked about in the video up to this point. Let's say you even had one person's, there was a square or opposition or even inconjunct to someone's Venus, and from Saturn to Venus in synastry. Now, that could show where if somebody in the synastry chart, say somebody's Saturn makes that adverse aspect to one's Venus, well, that could be the Venus person might see that Saturn person to some degree as a little bit cold or callous or undemonstrative, and the Saturn person may be kind of blocking that person's feelings or that love expression of that person. And that person also, on the other side of the coin, that the Saturn person may wind up feeling responsible strongly to a lot of the monetary side of the Venus person. In other words, might feel inundated with financial responsibilities that he or she may feel is unnecessary toward the Venus person. So I mean, you could even have a few of these really negative aspects that could really make that difference in that synastry. So I mean, it's just very important to look at everything when you're trying to find that potential soulmate in your chart. Another thing too is, I mean, people know that, I'm sure a lot of you know about the Arabic part of marriage in one's chart. Now, I mean, you don't want to, when you look at that, I mean, the part of marriage, I mean, if you have somebody's sun, moon, or ascendant makes a conjunction to one's part of marriage, well, that could possibly be some indicator for that. I don't see that part of marriage nearly as strong as the planets, the ascendant, or even like the asteroid Juno. But the part of marriage is mainly more connected with that style, that manner of marriage one may have. If you have the part of marriage in Leo, well, that could be a more extravagant type of wedding where you might spend an exorbitant amount of money to make it actually happen. Virgo, of course, could be rather a little bit more frugal, of course, and a lot less money spent on it, more of a humble type of wedding and atmosphere, so to speak, as opposed to maybe the one in flamboyant Leo. So, but anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for astrology and the soulmate. And stay tuned next time, where I'm going to be continuing my series on the zodiac signs and enemies. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person astrologically speaking based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.